everyone, my name's Levia and I'm Head of School and Senko at Ann Bernadt Nursery School. Today's presentation is called If Nothing Can Define Us, Then Nothing Can Divide Us. And it's a general look at gender terms. I really hope you enjoy it. So I'm starting the presentation with quite a shocking image of these two young women on a bus in London. And I'm asking you the question, why do hate crimes happen? I'm hoping throughout the presentation you'll understand the work that we're doing and with very, very young children and how we're trying to eradicate hate crime. So, hate crime is an incident or crime which is motivated by someone's irrational hatred of the difference of others, such as race, religion, sexuality, or gender identity. So that image that you saw was two women on a bus in London, and what happened was they were a lesbian couple and some teenage boys wanted them to kiss and they refused, and a fight ensued, and unfortunately those two women got quite seriously hurt. So what I wanted to think about is those teenagers that did that hate crime, if they had come to our nursery all those years ago and been taught all of the things that we're teaching about acceptance and different kinds of love, would they have committed that crime? And I'm hoping that the answer is no. Labels. So consider one label or aspect of yourself that you identify as and you like society to identify you as. So some examples might be you're proud to be a parent, you like it when people call you a parent, a teacher, you've worked hard to become a teacher, so you feel proud to have that label, you feel proud when people say that you're a good friend. In society, there are lots of labels that we like people to give us and make us feel good. Okay, consider a label which you know you have, but you don't like people to define you as, and how does that make you feel? So, for example, mine would be that I'm Jewish, and although I have great respect for the culture, I don't actually believe in religion myself, but I wouldn't say I wasn't Jewish because I have respect for my heritage and upbringing, but I wouldn't say I was Jewish because I don't believe in religion. So it's a bit complicated, but it's one that I'm not necessarily entirely comfortable with. So if you think of different labels that you have that you may or may not be comfortable with, and how does that make you feel? This is a really powerful image which I found online, and it's a range of people who have a stereotype or a label, and it's trying to confirm the stereotype. So if we read a few of them, it says, I wear glasses, so I must be a geek. I am a teenage mum, so I must be an irresponsible slut. That's quite a harsh one. I wear designer clothes, so I must be rich. I'm German, so I must be a Nazi. And it just shows you how many different ideas society has about people and how we can put labels on people that they don't feel comfortable with. So have a quick read of that because it is quite interesting. So we use this image about the Equality Act to explain to parents different aspects of what we're teaching their children. So there's age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion and belief, sex and sexual orientation. And what this image does is help us to speak to parents about all of the work that we do regarding equality. So lots of lovely things about different kinds of festivals, all very age appropriate. And we just use this to explain that, yes, we do talk about different kinds of genders and we do talk about different kinds of love. But like I said, it's at a very age appropriate level. And it's a challenge to find age appropriate ways to talk about these things. But that's part of what we're working on. Why is it so important to talk about this now? Well, there are over 20,000 children in the UK who have LGBTQ plus parents, and we want them to feel a part of all of the work we do about family and heritage. We want them to help to be included. There's actually 1 in 200 children who are intersex, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So just to clarify, because I think it's very helpful to separate these things. So sexuality is nothing to do with your gender identity, gender dysphoria. Sexuality is merely just who you as a person fancy, not how you feel about yourself. So it's literally just who you are attracted to. That is what sexuality is about. And some are saying that are we too young to teach children about sexuality? But we're not actually. What we're doing is we're just teaching about different kinds of love. So we're saying some people love men, some people love women, some people could love both. And we're just trying to be really, really clear that they're all kinds of love are great and brilliant. So these are some of the books, the LGBTQ books that we use in school. So whether or not the child has LGBTQ parents, or they may be questioning their own sexuality, how wonderful to have a range of books around them that show positive images of these things that they may be feeling or seeing. Some of the books do deal with those kind of issues. So King and King, the king wants to marry another king. But some of them, it just so happens that the characters in the book has two mums, for example. So there's lots of wonderful books out there that we're always trying to use with our children. I'm not sure if you've heard of the No Outsiders campaign, but it is a very fantastic piece of work, and it's very similar to what I've been talking about already. So if you can pause the video now and have a quick browse on the nooutsiders.com/aboutus website, there's some really lovely resources there, and some of them are free and you can download them. There's some assembly packs and all sorts of really great things about equality. Also, take a few moments to look at the second link on this page, which is a short YouTube video about the No Outsiders campaign and everything that they have done, and then come back to this slide. You're back. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope you found it useful to hear a bit more about No Outsiders. So let me just draw your attention to this image that we're seeing here of lots and lots of people outside the school in Birmingham. As you can see, a large majority of these people are men, and it's very interesting that was the main people who were protesting about this campaign. So just want you to take a moment, having watched the video, what are your thoughts about what happened in Birmingham? And what do you think? Should schools be asked to teach about difference, or do you think it should be up to parents to decide what their children learn and how they teach equality? Gender dysphoria. So gender dysphoria is a sense of distress caused by the disjunction between how you perceive yourself on the inside and your outward physical sex, your gender. So it's not clear when gender dysphoria can be taken seriously. And obviously in lots of nurseries, children are always dressing in a range of very creative ways. We actually took away any clothes that could be associated as boys' clothes or girls' clothes and just have loads of different fabrics, which helps children to be more creative anyway and doesn't define them. But it also means that there is nothing that can be defined when dressing up as a boy's clothes or a girl's clothes, which really helps to expand their imagination. It's part of us working really hard to eradicate gender stereotypes. So some of the work we're doing is with a local primary school, and we were lucky enough to have a visit from a boy ballet dancer, and this was just brilliant. He was an amazing dancer. He was in year 5, so he was only 10, and he did a little performance for the children, and then he taught them some ballet moves. And what I thought was so powerful about this is that some of the 2-year-olds in our nursery may never have seen a ballet dancer in real life before, and how fantastic for our work on gender that the first person they see who's a ballet dancer is male, because it will immediately eradicate all those stereotypes about what a ballet dancer looks like. Children are actually not born knowing whether they're a boy or a girl. It's all the things that us as a society, their parents, and all the stimulation they have around them that molds them into whatever we think a boy or a girl should behave like. So we're looking at gender not as so binary, but that there's lots of different spectrums, a bit like we do with autism. We say that there's a big spectrum of different kinds of autism and that all the children fit somewhere on it, well, we can look at gender the same way, and that all of us have different aspects of different gender. And if we begin to think this way, then children won't feel so stereotyped. However, there might be some children who feel very passionately that they were born in the wrong body. One of the things that we are doing is we're trying to really look at our language and the different language that we use with children. So rather than calling a girl consistently princess or beautiful, we've found this example of lots of other words that you can use when describing a girl. So insightful, thoughtful, determined, imaginative, trustworthy, resourceful. And perhaps these words wouldn't have been used by our staff team for girls before we did this training. So this is a documentary about a child called Leo. So I'd like you to have a look at that right now and then come back to this slide and we'll have some questions about it. So you've seen I Am Leo. It's a very powerful, I think, and quite well made documentary, and it's actually for children, which I think is amazing. How did the video make you feel? What do you think you could do to help Leo feel supported if he was in your school? Think of something about the video that you've seen that you will share with colleagues when you go back to school. Make a note, write it down so you don't forget. You say, I watched this presentation, I looked at this video, and there's something I really want to share with my colleagues. Another thing that we're trying to do is change our uniform. So we don't have a uniform at our nursery, but we are suggesting a uniform. One of the really good things about this uniform is it's super, super cheap. I think the top is £4 and the bottoms are £2.50 or something ridiculous. Really, really cheap. And we just want to help parents to not feel that the children have to dress up when they come to nursery. It's really easy for toilet training. It's not gender defined. Doesn't have to be navy blue. We say you could get a grey one, a blue one, whatever you like. But it really helps to take away from that sort of expectation that children have of dressing in a certain way, and parents have, and we just want them to play, and this is the best clothes for them to play in. Okay, so there's two famous people here, Caster Semenya and Hannah Gaby. Do you know anything about these famous people? They've been in the press a bit. Have a little look and see if you can remember anything about them. So we're going to learn a bit now about intersex people. So there's actually 3 genders. There's male, female, and intersex. What this means is when someone's born, they may have certain aspects that are male and female, which means that they are technically a little bit of both. Really, really interesting. Have a watch of that video and come back to this slide. So you've seen the video and you've learned a lot more about intersex people. So were you surprised by the video? One thing that really surprised me is their description that intersex people are as common as people with red hair, because I found that really quite surprising. How do you think you would support an intersex child and their family if they came to your school? And this is a really important one. You could maybe think about writing this down. What might you say to your class at the beginning of the year if you knew you had an intersex child starting? Would you talk to the family first? Would you find out what pronouns that child wanted you to use? There's lots of things that you could think about in order to make that child feel really comfortable in the class. So this is another thing that we're doing. We got the idea and some of the images from a trip that some of my colleagues were lucky enough to go on to Iceland, where they were looking at different gender issues. So in Iceland, what they've done, and it is really young children like our nursery, is they've made equality baskets. And all is in the equality baskets is just a range of laminated images. And they change them all the time, they mix them up all the time. And this is just some examples of what we've put in our equality basket. So we've got age, and gender, we've got pregnancy, we've got men in stereotypical women roles and women in stereotypical male roles. They're just in a basket, and the teachers and the educators work with the children and they just talk about them. It's really, really interesting to see what comes of those discussions. Some of our ongoing work that we're doing is that we're now a gender action initiator school. So if you're interested and you're not already a gender action school, have a look at that website and join up. It's really easy to do the first level, which is a supporter level. And it gives you loads and loads of ideas, resources about how to become more gender friendly, neutral in your school. We also are involved in an international project, which hopefully will take place next year, where we're going to go to 3 different countries and look at the way that they respond to gender. And then we're going to all come together to create an audit for schools and nurseries to look at their gender work and consider how they can improve. Further support. If you would like some further support, there's some websites here. So Raising My Rainbow is a really lovely website. It's a blog from an American parent who has a trans child. And Mermaids is a really great website. It's where I got most of the things, the videos that I've shown you today from. So if you're interested, check it out. The other interesting thing about the Mermaids website is it's become slightly more mainstream recently. When our cafes were open, Starbucks started selling a mermaid cookie, and some, not as much as we would like, but some of the money towards that mermaid cookie actually went to this mermaid charity, which I thought was really great. And so when all this is over, we can all go to Starbucks and buy a mermaid cookie. And just to make you smile, there's a really amazing musician called Grace Petrie, and she's written a song about transgender, and it's such a brilliant, brilliant song. So there's the link there, and I would really advise you to watch it and enjoy the wonderful music. Another thing that we supported was the charity No Room for Hate, which is a charity that specifically supports homeless children who are LGBTQ. So if you're interested in anything I've spoken about and want to know a little bit more, please feel free to email our office email below, and thank you very much for listening. Bye.